and welcome to Money Life. This is Sucheta Dalal. We're going to talk about cryptocurrencies again. I did a video blog just couple of weeks ago, but it's time to discuss it once again because there's a lot of action happening. After long silence and dilly-dallying over regulating cryptocurrencies, while tacitly allowing them to spread across India and even target low-income groups, the government is finally rushing to regulate or maybe even ban cryptos. Now, this has happened very, very hurriedly. One hurried meeting called by the Prime Minister himself, and immediately after that, another by the Parliamentary Committee on Finance. And a bill has already been introduced in Parliament and is going to be discussed in the session that starts on 29th November. Now, the trigger for this quick action was perhaps an outrage that was triggered by the brazen puffery and exaggerated claims by the crypto industry in their advertisements that dominated international cricket matches and advertised to a mammoth audience pretending high returns, safety, using movie stars. As I wrote earlier, by then cryptocurrencies had already spread with the cult-like frenzy of multi-level marketing schemes, while the government not only watched in silence, but cricket boards dominated by politicians made money on it. Now, we can only hope that the rushed draft leads to a non-partisan discussion in Parliament and a proper new law is enacted, which does not unleash further confusion, as has been triggered in the past every time the government did a rush job, whether it was a new tax portal or the much trumpeted midnight launch of the goods and services tax. We know how long it took to set those things right. Advocate Prashant Mali, who's an expert in cyber fraud, has another interesting point on this. He says, and I quote, "I've made a suggestion to the Parliamentary Affairs that parliamentarians participating in the cryptocurrency bill debate should first declare how much of crypto assets they hold directly or indirectly, and then talk over the bill in Parliament." It's a very, very important point because we know that there was no noise whatsoever about crypto because powerful people and people connected to those powerful people and policymakers have all been involved in the big money-making game that is crypto. In fact, he subtly explains this in that one tweet. And it also explains a lack of haste in banning or regulating cryptos for so long. By this time, 15 million Indians have apparently invested in cryptos, and a recent advertisement by the Blockchain and Crypto Assets Council claims that Indians have invested over, hold your breath, 6 lakh crore in crypto assets, while total market cap of cryptocurrencies globally is $3 trillion. So the only excuse we have for doing nothing is that we are not alone. This is a global craze, but it is no excuse for a country which has such high levels of poverty. Now let's come to the bill. Details of the Cryptocurrency and Regulation of Official Digital Currency Bill 2021, as it's called, are not in the public domain at the time I'm doing this column. In fact, there's a government notification about it being discussed in Parliament, and all it says is that the bill also seeks to prohibit all private cryptocurrencies in India. However, it allows for certain exceptions to promote the underlying technology of cryptocurrency and its uses. We all know that there is a difference between blockchain technology, which is used by certain cryptos, and the currency itself and how it's traded and sold. So people have been saying for a long time that the technology behind it may be useful. So the government wants to create a facilitative framework for introducing an official digital currency, probably by the Reserve Bank of India. Now, RBI's attempt to ban cryptocurrencies has been earlier struck down by the Supreme Court. Logically, the government should have brought in a law at that time, but it did nothing whatsoever to curb the untrammeled spread. And this happened despite warnings by the RBI governor. This time around, the RBI and the governor seem to be on board, although it's very clear that he's still uncomfortable. Now, I think there is another reason for bringing this legislation in at that time, as is indicated by the Prime Minister's comment, and again I quote, "All democratic countries need to work together on cryptocurrency and ensure that it does not end up in the wrong hands." While he did not allude to anything in specific, not criminals or terrorists, it is a fact that the underworld, people involved in cyber scams and terrorism, have taken to cryptos in a big way. And this has raised serious alarm among government investigation agencies. So this column is going to look at several of these specific concerns through data that's already in the public domain. There is something new that comes up every day, but most of us do not follow it, so we do not tabulate. All we do is see these movie stars telling you what a great investment it is, pretending that there are exchanges as though they're regulated by an official regulator, as though there is a direct comparison with what is called fiat currency or official currency issued by a country. This is far from true, and it is usually investigation agencies who are investigating terror attacks that actually get to the bottom of things. So I'm now going to quickly narrate several instances where it's been used by terrorism, which is out in the public domain. So in August 2020, the US Department of Justice revealed information on donation drives by the Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and a Hamas affiliate through layered transactions routed through the Syrian crypto exchange, Bitcoin Transfer. And this was redistributed to individual groups. AQB, or Al-Qassam Brigades, has 3 official websites since 2019 collecting donations through Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, all for terrorist activities. In September 2020, the French police had arrested 29 people for raising funds in that country and converting them to Bitcoins for funding jihadi activities in Syria. In June 2021, the Financial Action Task Force, in its report titled Ethically or Racially Motivated Terrorism Financing, you can look it up on the net, wrote about the growing use of crypto by extreme right-wing groups all over the country. It had some specifics. It said that Brenton Tarrant, who carried out the Christchurch mosque terror attack in 2019 in New Zealand, had been a donor to such groups using Bitcoin. Now, the South African group had created its own currency and an app that made the transaction data untraceable in 24 hours. This group raised 14,000 euros, and the coin operated on a 1-to-1 ratio with the South African rand. FATF also reported donations in cryptocurrencies raised by Scandinavian right-wing group Nordic Strike. A crypto analysis firm, Chainalysis, has been involved in several crypto-related investigations. One of them was the riots on Capitol Hill in the US, and it discovered that US dollars 522,000 worth of Bitcoin payments were made to extreme right groups. Part of this money was donated by a French national, not even the US. So riots happened in the US. In September 2021, Hisham Chaudhry, UK national, was convicted by the Birmingham Crown Court for raising £52 in Bitcoins, transferring them to release ISIS supporters from Syrian detention camps. It's not all. Intelligence agencies have tracked down Al-Qaeda affiliated organizations that openly use social media platforms to raise Bitcoin and cryptocurrency donations, which are used for the purchase of drones, artillery adjustment, and recon activities. Say it all openly. In fact, one administrator of a pro-Al-Qaeda Telegram group had channeled $175,000 to send to Syria between February 2019 to February 2020 through a central Bitcoin hub, again redistributed to fund jihadi terrorist activities. They even have their own coins and currency. In fact, Israel's National Bureau has tracked down counter-terror financing, seized 84 crypto wallets in July 2021. These were used by entities linked to Hamas for raising donations. They contained 7.7 million worth of digital currencies, not just Bitcoin, but Dogecoin, Cardano, Ether, whole bunch of them. Doesn't matter how many, but it is increasingly used. In fact, the ISIS also used it to fund the Easter bombings in Sri Lanka via a Canadian-based payment gateway called Coin Payments. This was to transfer Bitcoins. Similar terror funding has been found and noticed in Bangladesh, the Philippines, and closer home, of course, in Kashmir. And that's what affects us directly. The more it's used, the more Indians use it, the more valid the currency becomes, It is going to be used not just for terror funding, money laundering, ransomware, and cybercrime of different kinds. Open the papers today and you have at least one example of some cybercrime, some fakes which use cryptos or bitcoins to cheat people of money. The use in ransomware is widespread and very, very well documented. It's known to the intelligence community. US investigation agencies have traced several global networks of cyber criminals who are linked to high-risk activities, illicit exchanges, scamming, and these go back to countries like Russia, the Czech Republic, Ukraine, and often are just completely dominated by them. So the company that we talked about earlier, Chainalysis, has found that Eastern Europe has emerged as a hub for illicit cryptocurrency-based money laundering through the dark web and the use of Hydra Market. A Russian-based Ponzi scheme named Finico apparently accounts for half the total value spent in Eastern Europe, Eastern European scams. The UK police seized 180 million pounds worth of cryptocurrency as part of their own anti-money laundering operation in July 2021. This was in addition to another 114 million pounds worth of cryptocurrencies that they seized in June 2021. November 2021, the US Department of Justice, through Operation Dark Hunter, busted an international darknet-based opioid trafficking operation worth 31 million in cash. China did a lot better. China's Operation Card Breaking was a nationwide crackdown against cryptocurrency-linked money laundering in June 2021. And all of us know that China took strict action. It arrested over 1,100 people, 170 criminal organizations. A couple of months later, in September 2021, the Chinese government just banned cryptocurrency and notified that all crypto transactions in the country, including offshore exchanges, were illegal. In India, the Enforcement Directorate has also done some work. It's issued a show cause notice to an exchange called WazirX, which is India's largest crypto exchange, in June 2021. It did this after notice 2,790 crore worth of transactions were in contravention of the Foreign Exchange Management Act. I'm sure it'll be fought out, but the ED investigation into money laundering by a Chinese mobile betting app using crypto exchanges was allegedly what led to this discovery. It found that the Chinese nationals had converted Indian currency into cryptos and transferred them to a wallet in the Cayman Islands. Now, all this sounds like a long narration. It is still just the tip of the iceberg. In fact, India lags far behind in tracking and tracing such activities, let alone warning people about its potential dangers and misuse. In fact, there's a survey recently that's also come out today, which shows that many Indians are wary, they're angry about the advertisements and the false claims in them, and they want regulation of some kind. In fact, many of them even want a ban. The first process would be to have a clear national stance, policy, framework on cryptos, and an enabling legislation that allows government investigation agencies to even act against wrongdoing. If we are just silent and do nothing, there is nothing, not even taxation, that can happen. Legislation, however, cannot be flawed or hasty. It is, yes, the first step in that direction, and it can be tightened and corrected, but it would make eminent sense to take time and introduce a proper legislation and maybe have some bans until that is in place. In fact, an enabling legislation is needed not just to crack down on cryptocurrencies used in terror funding, but also for valuing them for genuine purposes, including income and assets under various laws, such as the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act. But we're not talking about it at all. You're just misleading people and allowing it to continue. It's very clear that something is going to happen. But my worry is that when it's rushed, it may not be the right thing. It may not be properly thought out. It may have loopholes. We're going to wait and watch. We're going to visit this, track it, and come back again. If you like what you've heard, please share this video. Thank you.